shut down, and that is why the building is closed?
Well, we were advised by the attorneys to close the building. The building shouldn't be open. They're risky.
I think they take this serious. I think it's a big game to them, and they don't understand that the more confusion and the more back and forth that we do, no one suffers.
Under Tiffany Henyard's leadership, chaos unfolded in what can only be described as a high-stakes political spectacle. Known as the self-proclaimed super mayor, Henyard's tenure has been marked by controversy, and this meeting was no exception. What began as a routine township gathering quickly devolved into a dramatic clash of accusations, finger-pointing, and walkouts, leaving trustees and residents alike frustrated with the lack of direction. Henyard set a combative tone from the outset, continuing her streak of public disputes. She accused trustees of neglecting their duties and ignoring community needs, while her critics fired back, accusing her of mismanagement, corruption, and prioritizing personal vendettas over governance. What followed was less a government meeting and more a theatrical showdown, with harsh exchanges and outbursts replacing any semblance of professionalism. The meeting also exposed deeper cracks in the township's administration, with allegations of financial mismanagement, missed project deadlines, and misuse of funds surfacing. Critics lambasted Henyard for lavish spending and claimed public resources were being funneled to her personal security rather than addressing broader community safety concerns. Amid the chaos, Henyard positioned herself as a warrior against opposition, dismissing accusations and framing herself as the victim of political sabotage. As the evening progressed, it became clear that no resolutions would emerge. Instead, the rift between Henyard and her detractors only widened, leaving residents disillusioned and the township's future more uncertain than ever. The meeting underscored the dysfunction at the heart of the administration, where division and hostility overshadow meaningful governance.
Not at the hearing here today. Neither was her attorney, and she was not.
Thoron Township finds itself in the midst of a deepening crisis that transcends political disputes and directly endangers essential community services. Since December 1st, the township has been operating without insurance, leaving residents and employees unprotected. This critical lapse jeopardizes programs such as senior transportation and after-school activities for children, vital lifelines for many in the community. A recent township meeting convened to address this issue ended in chaos, underscoring the dysfunction at the heart of Thoron's leadership. The meeting, which should have provided solutions, devolved into heated arguments and unproductive blame-shifting. Mayor Tiffany Henyard took center stage, accusing township trustees of negligence. According to Henyard, the insurance renewal was canceled because trustees repeatedly failed to attend previous meetings where the issue could have been resolved. "You all should reach out to your trustees because they are not doing their jobs," Henyard implored, urging residents to hold the trustees accountable for the current predicament. Henyard's impassioned statements resonated with some, but her detractors quickly pushed back, accusing her of using the insurance crisis to manipulate the board and advance her personal agenda. Among her most vocal critics was trustee Chris Gonzalez, a former ally turned political rival, who lambasted Henyard's leadership as divisive and counterproductive. Gonzalez argued that Henyard's approach was less about resolving the crisis and more about consolidating her own power. "This is all about control," Gonzalez declared, his frustration evident as he accused Henyard of deliberately creating chaos to strengthen her political position. The meeting quickly spiraled into a spectacle of accusations and counter-accusations. Trustees criticized Henyard for fostering dysfunction and failing to secure insurance, while Henyard accused them of sabotaging her efforts. The room, filled with concerned residents, bore witness to a leadership team consumed by infighting rather than problem-solving. For many attendees, the spectacle offered little hope that their critical services would be restored anytime soon. Henyard's leadership has become a lightning rod for controversy in Thoron Township. To her supporters, she is a determined and embattled leader, fighting against a political opposition intent on undermining her at every turn. To her critics, she is an authoritarian figure whose leadership style prioritizes personal ambition over collaboration. The growing divide within the township's leadership has paralyzed progress on urgent issues, leaving the community in a state of uncertainty. One of the key dynamics fueling this crisis is the deteriorating relationship between Henyard and Gonzalez. Once close allies, the two now find themselves locked in a bitter political feud. Gonzalez has aligned himself with State Senator Napoleon Harris, a powerful figure, and one of Henyard's most formidable political rivals. This new alliance has added an extra layer of tension to the township's governance, symbolizing a broader political fracture. During the meeting, Gonzalez openly accused Henyard of exploiting the insurance crisis to further her political ambitions. "They can't beat me, so they're trying to block me at every turn," Gonzalez asserted, framing himself as a target of Henyard's alleged power play. For her part, Henyard positioned herself as a victim of a coordinated effort to derail her leadership. She claimed that political forces aligned against her were working tirelessly to block her initiatives and tarnish her reputation. "This is a conspiracy to stop me from serving the community," she argued, portraying herself as a leader under siege. While her rhetoric rallied some supporters, it also deepened the divisions within the township. The meeting, intended to address the insurance crisis, instead highlighted the broader dysfunction within Theron's government. Both sides engaged in verbal sparring, hurling accusations that revealed the depth of personal and political animosities. Henyard's critics accused her of mismanagement and an unwillingness to collaborate with trustees. Some characterized her leadership style as increasingly autocratic, pointing to her failure to resolve critical issues as evidence of her inability to govern effectively. "I probably regret ever nominating her," one township employee reportedly said, reflecting the growing disillusionment among staff members. Meanwhile, Henyard's defenders painted Gonzalez as an opportunist, leveraging the current crisis to advance his political ambitions. They accused him of exploiting Henyard's struggles to position himself as a more viable leader. His alliance with Harris, they argued, was a calculated move to increase his influence and undermine Henyard's authority. These accusations only fueled further mistrust and division, making productive dialogue all but impossible. As the township's leadership remains mired in infighting, the real impact of their dysfunction is being felt by the community. Without insurance, critical programs that many residents depend on are at risk. Senior transportation services, relied upon by the township's elderly population, could be severely disrupted. After-school programs that provide children with a safe and supportive environment are also in jeopardy. The prolonged uncertainty surrounding these services has created widespread frustration and anxiety among residents who feel abandoned by their leaders. The insurance crisis is emblematic of a larger governance problem in Theron Township. While Henyard retains a loyal base of supporters, her leadership has become increasingly polarizing. Gonzalez's growing opposition, bolstered by his alliance with Harris, reflects a broader dissatisfaction with the direction of the township's leadership. The ongoing power struggle between Henyard and her detractors has created a gridlock that prevents meaningful progress on key issues. The dysfunction at the meeting was a stark reminder of the challenges facing Theron Township. Instead of collaborating to address the insurance lapse, leaders allowed personal grievances and political rivalries to dominate the conversation. This lack of cooperation has left the township without a clear path forward, raising serious questions about the future of its governance. Despite Henyard's defiant rhetoric and the steadfast support of her allies, the cracks in her leadership are becoming increasingly apparent. Critics argue that her confrontational style and inability to build consensus have hindered the township's ability to address urgent problems. Meanwhile, her opponents, emboldened by alliances like Gonzalez's with Harris, are positioning themselves as potential alternatives to her leadership. This political maneuvering, however, has done little to resolve the immediate crisis facing the community. As the stakes continue to rise, Theron Township remains at a standstill. The unresolved insurance crisis looms large, threatening essential services and deepening residents' frustration. The political drama surrounding the issue has only served to highlight the leadership void at the heart of the township's government. Without a concerted effort to set aside personal and political differences, Thoron Township's ability to provide for its residents will remain in jeopardy. The unfolding conflict underscores a deeper truth about Thoron's current state. Leadership has become defined by division rather than collaboration. As each day passes without a resolution, the township's political climate grows more unstable, and the needs of the community are increasingly overshadowed by personal ambition and political posturing. For now, the insurance crisis and the broader dysfunction it symbolizes remains a stark reminder of what happens when governance is replaced by infighting. Only time will tell whether Thoron Township's leaders can overcome their differences and restore stability. For the sake of its residents, however, it is clear that the township's leadership must prioritize collaboration over conflict and governance over grudges if it hopes to move forward.
Township and in Dalton. Except in one case, Tiffany Henyard wants on a ballot, while in another, a Henyard ally was looking to...
The tension between Mayor Tiffany Henyard and the Board of Trustees is the root cause of the ongoing crisis in Thoron Township. Henyard has openly accused the trustees of deliberately obstructing progress, framing them as saboteurs with a singular aim to damage her reputation. During a recent contentious meeting, Henyard stated, "They're sabotaging me because they know I'm standing up for the people." Her bold accusations have sparked fierce debates, but the trustees quickly countered with one, privately characterizing Hen's leadership style as the real barrier to progress. This trustee described Henyard as domineering and unresponsive to criticism, claiming she believes she knows everything, and anyone who disagrees with her is simply labeled as against her. The current situation is marked by deep mistrust and continuous deadlock, transforming the township into a battleground where even the most minor decisions ignite fierce battles. This toxic political climate is not just the result of personal animosities, but reflects deeper dysfunction. A host of red flags has emerged, including allegations of lost money, unexplained expenses, and the use of taxpayer funds for questionable objectives such as luxury trips. The FBI's ongoing investigation into the Henyard administration's finances, focusing on possible financial malfeasance, has further complicated the situation, while Henyard has flatly denied any wrongdoing, framing the investigation as a coordinated effort to undermine her leadership. The cloud of suspicion continues to hang over the township. The investigation and the surrounding political drama highlight the leadership breakdown and its detrimental impact on the community. Henyard has repeatedly accused her political enemies of sabotaging her efforts, portraying herself as a victim of a broader conspiracy. She claims that these attacks are part of a deliberate campaign to forward her progress and prevent her from fulfilling her duties to the people during a recent public comment period at a township meeting. Hen supporters voiced their outrage, questioning how they could continue to trust the administration. Given the numerous unresolved scandals, many residents are disillusioned, and their concerns go beyond Henyard's claims of coordinated political attacks. The township's financial mismanagement and High's apparent disregard for fiscal responsibility have exacerbated the growing divide within the community. Her supporters remain loyal, arguing that Henyard is standing up for the people in the face of an unjust system. However, for many others, Henyard is about fighting a corrupt system. Rings hollow as they see her as the architect of her own problems. Henyard's polarizing leadership style, which some see as self-serving and authoritarian, has further alienated residents. Her inability to build bridges has become a focal point of criticism, with many feeling that she has failed to unite the township's diverse factions in pursuit of common goals. This lack of cooperation, along with the persistent scandals and accusations, has undermined her credibility, even among those who might sympathize with her struggles. Her decision-making has been called into question, and her tendency to react offensively to any challenge has only deepened the sense of distrust within the township's leadership. The ongoing dysfunction has serious implications for the future of Thoron Township. As a township remains embroiled in internal conflicts, the needs of the community continue to be sidelined. One of the most pressing issues is a stalled insurance renewal, which has left vital services, such as senior transportation, including rides to dialysis treatments, grocery shopping, and medical appointments, in jeopardy for the elderly and vulnerable residents who rely on these services. The ongoing political turmoil has become a matter of life and death. The uncertainty caused by the township's political battles has left many residents feeling exposed and abandoned. The services that these residents depend on are not mere conveniences. They are essential lifelines that ensure their survival and well-being. The mounting frustration is palpable, with residents voicing their anger over the township's failure to prioritize their needs over internal disputes. What should be a time of unity and decisive action, especially in securing necessary insurance and stabilizing services, has instead devolved into a cycle of bureaucratic failure and political infighting. During a recent community gathering, one resident expressed their profound despair over the state of affairs, pointing out how the township's leadership had allowed crucial services to teeter on the brink of collapse. This isn't just about poor governance, they said. This is about people's lives. The frustration was echoed by others in the room, who labeled the ongoing dysfunction as disgraceful. The township's leadership, they argued, had failed to recognize the severity of the situation. The urgent need for action to residents' anger is not just directed at Henyard, but at the entire leadership structure. Many have voiced their belief that the township's leadership has become more concerned with political power struggles and personal grudges than with serving the needs of the community. The internal conflict has not only disrupted services, but has also eroded the trust and reliability that the residents once had in their elected officials. As the situation continues to deteriorate, it is clear that Thoron Township is facing a leadership crisis of unprecedented proportion. The stakes are higher than ever, and the longer the political infighting persists, the more damage will be done to the township's reputation and its ability to function effectively. The inability of the mayor and the board of trustees to work together for the common good has left the township in a state of paralysis, where decisions that should be advancing the community's interest are instead stuck in bureaucratic limbo. For the township's most vulnerable residents, especially the elderly, the stakes could not be higher. They are enduring the brunt of the ongoing political turmoil, and their lives are directly impacted by the dysfunction. At the township level, without a functioning government to support them, these residents are left to navigate a growing crisis on their own. The future of Thoron Township hangs in the balance as long as the leadership remains mired in conflict. The township's ability to address the needs of its residents will continue to be compromised. For many, the question is no longer just about governance, it's about survival. If the current trajectory persists, the community's trust in its leaders will continue to erode, and the township's once promising future may be lost in the chaos of internal strife. Residents of Thoron Township are increasingly vocal in their frustration with the leadership, as a failure to act has left the community in turmoil. Critics argue that this lack of accountability is not only politically damaging, but also unforgivable, particularly for the seniors and other vulnerable residents who rely on essential services. These services, which safeguard their independence, health, and overall well-being, are now at risk due to the ongoing crisis. The community's message is clear enough, with the finger-pointing and political maneuvering. It's time for the leadership to focus on practical, real-world solutions that protect the most vulnerable and end the instability that has plagued the township for far too long. The situation is dire, and without immediate intervention, critics warn that the dysfunction will only worsen. The cost of inaction are not just political, they are deeply human. As the crisis continues to unfold, the stakes for Thoron Townships most at-risk residents grow. With every passing day, the town has reached a critical point, demanding swift, thoughtful, and compassionate leadership, qualities that to date have been sorely lacking. Some residents expressed their discontent during the public comment period of a recent meeting, calling for Mayor Henyard's resignation and demanding accountability from the Board of Trustees. Meanwhile, the financial issues within the township took center stage, with trustees battling over whose bills should be paid first. This public dispute further revealed the deep divisions within the board, with no clear resolution in sight. Henyard herself rejected any compromise, dismissing attempts to address the insurance crisis and telling the trustees, "I'm not here to negotiate." Henyard's combative leadership style, characterized by an unwillingness to collaborate and an overemphasis on personal battles, has made her increasingly unpopular with many members of the board. This hostility has been compounded by her ongoing lawsuit against the Thoron Township Democratic Party. She argues that the caucus process that disqualified her from the ballot for the upcoming township supervisor election was unfair. Henyard claims that her supporters were locked out of the venue, preventing them from voting. However, State Senator Napoleon Harris, who chaired the caucus, refuted her allegations, arguing that the process was fair and followed the rules. Henyard's detractors point to her controversial financial decisions as further evidence of her inability to lead her past spending habits, including lavish trips, undisclosed expenses like an $85 Zero concert, and questionable dealings involving her defunct burger company have raised serious concerns about her fitness for office. These revelations have fueled criticism that Henyard is more focused on protecting her political career and personal interests than serving the needs of the township's financial issues, including a stalled insurance renewal, have left essential services like senior transportation hanging in the balance. The continuing drama surrounding Henyard leadership, including her decision to plan a bingo night during a financial crisis, has left many residents disillusioned. The township's budget remains unresolved, with tax levy negotiations ending in chaos. The trustees and Henyard appear incapable of working together with no solutions in sight. Meanwhile, the township's employees and residents continue to suffer, caught in the middle of a leadership battle that seems to have no end as the township's leadership remains in gridlock. Many are turning to social media to voice their frustrations. One commenter expressed disbelief at the dysfunction, stating, "This is the most dysfunctional leadership I've ever seen." The comment echoed a widespread sentiment at Henyard. With or without the trust, help should be able to secure the necessary insurance to stabilize the situation of question now facing the residents, which is whether Henyard can turn things around or if it's time for new leadership altogether, while she maintains that her actions are about protecting democracy and giving the people a voice. The ongoing crisis paints a different picture. The township's most vulnerable residents who rely on essential services to live are suffering as the political drama continues to unfold. The rising tide of dissatisfaction makes it unclear whether Henyard can continue to weather the storm or whether her critics will succeed in changing the course of the township's future in the wake of a chaotic meeting where no meaningful progress was made. Thoron Township's residents are left wondering what the future holds. Will the leadership be able to set aside their differences and work for the good of the community, or will the dysfunction continue to spiral out of control? One thing is certain, the situation is far from over, and the residents who are caught in the middle are the ones who will bear the brunt of the fall.